correct rate, you're going to win a lot of quizzes. Now, if your interruption percentage is you're getting about 40% of your interruptions right, chances are you need to wait a little bit longer. Move that back a little bit. The good thing is, because we use this software in Ohio, you can know what the percentages of all your quizzers are. You go on the website, upcquiz.com, you pull up the tournament, you pull up your team, and you'll see the interruption percentage, the correct percentage rate, how many 10s, 20s, and 30s they average on each quiz, and you'll know where your quizzes are. So look at that kind of thing as a coach. See where your numbers are trending. You can do a tag team interruption. You can share the buzzers. Sometimes people will be very brave if it's not their buzzer. You have everyone hand the buzzers down one space, and wow, it's amazing how brave people will be. So have someone interrupt for the quizzers. And then I would say the most favorite game of our quizzers is the speed game. And the way I do it is I say, all right, the color is blue, red, orange, yellow, fuchsia, turquoise, blue. And as soon as I say it, they have to buzz in. They're listening to a key word, and that's often what we're doing in quizzing as well. Or I'll say, the word is under, and then I'll start telling them the story. And they have to listen throughout my story. And a lot of times I'll take 3 to 4 minutes before I say that word, and they have to listen the whole time. So developing listening skills. Chapter 7, contesting. There's essentially 3 reasons you would contest. For those who aren't familiar, contesting is something a quizzer can do in a quiz. If they feel like the other team was called correct and they should have been called incorrect. If they feel like your team was called incorrect and they should have been correct. Or if they feel like it was a bad question, like a misleading or mislabeled question. A quizzer can bring that to the quizmaster's attention. The way you do that is after the quizmaster says that is correct or that is incorrect, the quizzer stands up right away and says, contest please. And then the quizzer has the opportunity to defend their logic. I think the other team should have been called wrong because they accidentally included this word in their quote, and thank you for your time. And then the quizmaster will go back, listen to the tape. Oh yeah, they did say that extra word. This contest is granted. Contesting procedure is included on the videos on the SeniorBibleQuizzing.com website, so you can actually see it in person. But there are different ways that you can teach your quizzers to contest. My favorite is Quizmaster Sabotage, and I just love this game. I love the title of it too. Quizmaster Sabotage, while I'm reading the quiz, I'm purposely making mistakes. And they have to find out where the mistakes are. And so I'll be reading a quiz, and the quizzer is obviously correct, and I will matter-of-factly say that is incorrect. Question number 8. And if they don't defend themselves, then I'm moving on. And so you've got to speak up for yourself. There are times, quizmasters are human. Brother Redmond will attest to this. There are times I make mistakes. And so a quizzer has to be able to recognize on a split second, wait a second, I think there's something fishy about this, and they have to stand up right away. You don't have minutes to decide. We're moving on to the next question, and if he starts the next question, you can't contest the one before anymore. And so I'll do Quizmaster Sabotage, or I'll make a question mislabeled. I'll say something like, question number 1 is worth 10 points question, and then I'll make it a 2 or 3 part question. And the quizzer has to be perceptive enough to realize, hey, that was mislabeled, because that actually happens at tournaments. It does. Question writers are human too. One thing you can do is called catch that word. It's something where you have to, you quote something as a quizmaster. So, for the word of God is powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword and piercing even to dividing asunder. What word did I leave out, Stephen?
Quick.
I left out the word quick. And so what you cannot do with a contest, you cannot contest and say, Mr. Quizmaster, I feel like they quoted that wrong. Would you please listen to the tape and then walk away? The Quizmaster will not listen to the tape. You have to tell them what word you feel was wrong. You have to go down and say, sir or ma'am, I felt like they left out the word quick on their quotation. Would you please listen to the tape? Then we'll go back and listen to the tape. But it's not the Quizmaster's job to do the quizzer's work. Okay? So the Quizmaster has to be able to point out exactly what word was said wrong. Or, if they said a word in an unusual way, you have to tell them what new word they made. Okay? So, if they say someone's name, and they say it different than you can't really contest that. Okay? But if they say something in such a way that it sounds like they formed a new word, or a word that actually exists in Webster's dictionary, you can contest that. Okay? Chapter 8, Rules Review. So, every coach, it's to your advantage, like I said in the first session, to purchase a rule manual and to read it. Because this will help your quizzers so much. There are certain procedures to how the tournament works that helps things run smooth and efficient. And if you're not familiar with how that happens, then you could put your team at risk to earn fouls during a tournament. That's negative points because of making a mistake. And so something you can do is a distraction quiz, like we talked about before. You can have people try to distract your quizzers and draw their attention away. Or you could do a foul fiesta where your quizzers purposely have a fun time of doing everything wrong that you could do wrong. For instance, when a quizzer sits at the board, both arms are supposed to be on the table, one hand is holding the buzzer, and they're not supposed to talk to their teammates, their coaches, or anyone in the audience. And when a quizzer calls a timeout or a contest, first of all, only a captain can call a timeout, and only if you're allowed. But if a quizzer calls a contest, they have to stand completely. When a coach calls a timeout, the coach has to stand up. When a coach calls a point of order, they have to stand up. And so all of those rules are things that you can simulate in practice, that you can teach your quizzers. You can just go over them kind of in a dry way, just talk about it, or show it using a foul fiesta. You could do an exercise extravaganza, which my brother was notorious for here in Dublin, where if a quizzer does something that constitutes a foul, take the points that they would have lost and turn those into jumping jacks, or push-ups, or laps, or wall sits. And that gets really interesting really fast. Alright? So, either they're going to be in really good shape or they're just going to get rid of those fouls. Chapter 9. You know, Bible quizzing does cost money. And oftentimes one of the roles of a coach is to also be an individual who coordinates fundraisers. And so you might find yourself doing this. And we've got all kinds of ideas that have worked for people over the years listed in Chapter 9. A couple that I think are really easy to do. The restaurant fundraising is something that many businesses will do. Max and Irma's is one of them. I've heard of different businesses in the areas where if you bring them business that day, you've got to first call ahead, you coordinate with the manager says, okay, 15% of the proceeds that you bring in on October 29th is going to go towards your fundraising program. And so, as many people as go to that restaurant with your flyer that day, you get 15% of the proceeds. It's a really easy way. Church people tend to go out to eat on Sunday anyways. You might as well get them to go out to eat to a restaurant that will earn you money for your quiz program. And so you can use the restaurant fundraising. You could do a 5K, a yard sale. You'd be amazed, or maybe you wouldn't be amazed because you already found out about this, but you can raise a lot of money fast with the yard sale. Because people have that old dusty treadmill they've been wanting to get rid of, and you just earned 50 bucks for the quiz program. So you can do a yard sale. The hired hand or the quizzing auction, that's a neat idea where approved church members can auction off or purchase the services of a quizzer. So they go and do gardening at the person's house or something along those lines. So that's been something that's been useful as well. It has to, you know, be approved church members taking part of that. Babysitting, babysit for Bible quizzing fundraising. There's probably young adults young parents at your church who would love to have an evening together without the kids. And so for a small donation to the quiz ministry, they can drop the kids off and the quizzers will watch the kids and babysit while mom and dad can enjoy an evening. Flamingo surprise. I love this idea. And check with the laws in your local township before you do this. But you take these fake flamingos, you plant them in the yard of someone in the church, and then you leave them a note offering to replant them in the yard of another person for a donation. And someone in the church can purchase flamingo insurance so they don't have an encounter with the flamingos. And it's amazing how this moves around, and people say, oh, I know who I want you to get next. And so that's a really fun one.